Hey everyone, so here we are, we three queens back again. I'm Achieng.
I'm Micheline.
And I'm Musonda.
And today we have a really, really interesting subject, don't we, girls? It's all about multiplicity.
Absolutely.
A nice, big, juicy word that maybe doesn't even exist in the dictionary, but we're okay with that because we found a definition for it. It's the art of applying all those different talents you have when you have to. And if you think about COVID, girls, can you imagine like what COVID has had us do?
Yeah.
What we've had to do, what we've had to learn or even unlearn because of COVID?
So we've become multilicious.
We've become multilicious. That's the word, that's the word.
I love it.
You know, because sometimes, you know, I think the kind of environments that we grow up in sometimes are very kind of structured and linear. And so, you know, you kind of study to become this and kind of work to become that.
Interesting, yeah.
And yet the world is so different and so much is evolving. If you think about even the gig economy and the fact that, especially the younger generation, sometimes I like to call them the slash generation.
Right.
Because there are this, slash
That
this,
and the
slash
other.
this,
True.
slash this.
Yeah.
They're never one thing.
True.
Right.
Unlike when we were growing up. So
Right.
the whole concept of multiplicity is so interesting because the circumstances have forced us to try and think of different things and different ways that we can apply our different talents to be able to, I don't know, earn a living.
And people have lost
You know?
jobs. I mean,
Exactly.
how many people have lost jobs during COVID? You know, for me, this multilicious way of living was kind of taught to me by my mother, my own mother, and my stepmother. In fact, my stepmother was a trained registered nurse, midwife,
Yeah.
a seamstress, and a landscaper. Amazing.
She was in the slash generation.
Total
way
slash
beyond before her time.
This is in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
And I remember people coming to her home and it's like, oh, we've come to buy plants from Mrs. Mumba. And we're like, okay, but she's a nurse and she grows plants and she does this. And
That's
so for
incredible.
me, my
Fabulous.
identity wasn't looking at her. I was thinking, oh, I can be so many things
Yeah.
and more.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's more applicable today
yes.
to me,
Yeah.
quite
Yeah.
frankly.
Yeah. So I know you're doing lots of interesting stuff, but I'd love to hear your perspective, Mish.
Do you know what?
When you think about it.
I'm thinking
Yeah.
about the fact that I was really lucky to study quite young.
Yeah.
So I had a master's at 2021. And so in my career, I have been a public health, and I am a public health specialist. I worked in public health,
Yeah.
in international development, and did a good 8 years of that. And it's, I can't remember if it's the hummingbird syndrome or something. People who just have multiple interests.
Right.
You know, I'm not that one thing
Yes.
person.
Yeah.
And so after doing about 7 or 8 years of that, I was
Yeah.
like, oh, let me try something else. I worked
Right.
in technology, innovation, actually.
Yeah.
And then it stopped being like a conscious decision to try something else.
Yes.
Rather, opportunities just came my way. And so I went into the field of investment and impact investment, and now work as a business advisor. And so that's like my work, right?
Yes.
And then I'm like, right, I've got to finish my book. You know, I've been trying to finish my book
Exactly.
of short
Yeah.
stories.
Yes.
So I am a writer, but hopefully soon to be published author. Please send me positive energy. Please, let's make that happen. And I love that.
Yeah.
And then let's look at this. Just
Yeah.
us sitting around the table nearly a year ago and deciding to turn what was like chats, you know, tea time chats,
Yeah.
dinner conversations,
Yeah.
into this, which somebody described to me as a curator of modern African narratives. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I didn't know that's what this was.
That has a really nice ring to it.
YouTube channel is that? Okay, you know, I'll take that. So then
Yeah.
we become that as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And possibly more. So I I suppose, early on realized that it's okay that I've studied this thing. I don't have to do it forever. You know?
Exactly.
And if I just throw the mic back to you, my God, have you reinvented yourself? And you
Oh,
keep
girl,
She's
I could write a book.
multilicious.
Tell me about your
I'm just
multiliciousness.
multilicious thing.
As your nails are. You are really as multilicious as your nails. I mean, how would you summarize like a couple of your amazing, sort of efforts and interests?
My journey has been such an interesting one. Actually, I'm filled with gratitude sometimes when I sit and I think about it. Because I worked in tourism for many years and then I jumped into the fast-moving consumer goods industry and got into this marketing world. But even as you think about reinventing yourself, you know, the landscape evolves, you know?
Right.
So one minute I was a highly sort of recognized, maybe I can say, marketing person, but I was a classical marketing person.
Right.
And I've had to reinvent myself and go into this digital space. Right. And then that's kind of led me into this technology space. And now I'm a techpreneur. But I love to cook, and I discovered my love for cooking in more recent years.
Wow.
You know? And
so are we going to see like Achieng?
Well, the other day we had a friend's
I'm trying
birthday.
to coin it, something deliciousness.
Achieng,
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
Attitude.
Yes. Maybe. Well, we'll figure it
Yes.
out. But I was going to tell you guys, you know me and my stories, right? So the other day, it was a friend's birthday, and this friend has been part of my quarantine. So we're a small group of about 4 or 5 people who've really kind of hung out and spent time together and quarantined together. And so it was this friend's birthday. And so I decided I was going to cook. Now, this friend is a brilliant cook. He cooks for fun, for the love of it, not because it's his career or his métier. And so I won't even go into the complicated part of the story, which is we booked a house, and it turned out to be a con. I guess in these COVID times, people are just posting people's houses.
Oh my goodness, that's terrible.
And then you pay them,
That's
and then you get there, and then there's people living in there.
That is a really important parenthesis, because I guess you'll tell us more later, but there's scams happening in Nairobi.
There's scams happening.
If you book a house somewhere, just double check.
Yeah,
for real.
Yeah, you've got to double check.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, I mean, that was crazy. But we made a plan because we're solution providers, we're problem solvers like that. But I was going to cook for this friend, and this friend is a brilliant cook. So we ended up taking the party back to their house, small party, intimate sort of gathering. And I cooked, and they loved the food. And I remember one of the people there saying, I would pay for this. Like, why don't you open a restaurant or something? Now,
Bravo!
I know, right? Because my mom used to find me such a doomed, God rest her soul, but she found me so doomed in the kitchen.
Oh my God,
I don't think she'd believe it was me.
nicely.
If she saw me now, she'd be thinking, whose child is that anyway? You know, anyway. So that's my little anecdote.
If you sort of took that challenge on.
I think you
and
should.
You know, as you speak, I think about some of the businesses that I work with, the startups, the more growth stage businesses. So there's one I'm thinking of, a restaurant who had to quickly figure out how to deliver food during COVID-19, which is not necessarily a cooking business or a food business, it's a logistics business.
Exactly.
That's the new skill that they have.
Right.
Or some of the, the fashion companies that we know, the retail companies that had to, in the first 2 weeks make masks, because how do you make a mask for 60 plus million people?
Exactly.
That cost, 100 shillings and less.
Yeah.
And so that kind of pivoting is something that COVID-19 has helped, has forced people to do.
Absolutely.
The innovation has just been phenomenal. But I just want to talk about a friend of mine. So my girlfriend Avis Childs is a fashion designer. She's of Jamaican descent, Black British, and she designs these scarves. The scarf
that one you're wearing.
That is so beautiful.
I love her. And Avis Childs did this collection, which is called Kivu. And Kivu is supporting women who are suffering in war zones. But her artistry is just phenomenal. So she got creatives, mostly black creatives in England, to design the stuff, but also look at the story of a space.
Yes.
And so here's a woman who's a fashion designer and also in education, because she's also a professor, and just amazing, and a businesswoman.
Yes.
And a creative, and also somebody who's an activist to a large extent, talking about how can we talk about women that are disempowered and suffering? And we've seen how people are suffering even in this COVID time. And I love those layers, those multilicious ways that people present themselves. And
Absolutely. But you're also very
yes, I was gonna
multilicious.
say.
Like, when I look at you, I think, yes, when I first met you, it was environmentalist, this amazing, very approachable woman. And then started to get to know you and saw all these layers.
Yes.
Tell.
in a nutshell, I think during this COVID world, I've been like you. I've been incredibly experimental to my
Yeah.
cooking because I love cooking. I've entertained, and you
Yes.
guys have come and
You have.
tasted my food. And also, I've also been diving into my artwork. So I've been painting. I've been trying to explore. I was telling you this morning, you guys, how I'm painting on fabric.
Amazing.
That's amazing.
I'm just because I just thought, during Christmas or during sort of holidays, I like to give gifts that are made by me, and also gifts that are environmentally friendly. So I feel that I'm going to be giving out maybe some shoe bags that are hand painted by me, or a little makeup bag for your handbag, or something. I don't know.
But your fashion, you're not even talking about, you haven't even scratched the surface.
know.
Some of the fashion pieces, like the jackets you wear and pictures you take on Facebook, and I think she designed this
They're
and got someone to make it. Like, amazing
They're
stuff.
really
But-
beautiful and unique.
It's been funny. From a young age, I had an eye for things, and I remember designing this jacket with wool, red wool, and I had bogola fabric lined in it.
Yes.
And I wore this jacket in New York, and a woman walked up to me and says, "Oh my God, who's that by?" And I'm like, "By me."
Musonda.
And she was like, "Who are you?" And I'm like, "Musonda." So which line do you work? And I said, I actually work for the UN. She's like, "Oh my God, really? You're a scientist?" Like, and I'm like, and many other things. Can I buy it off of you?
Oh, wow.
You'd have made a cool few thousand bucks.
Actually, I ended up selling it to her, but I won't tell you how
No
much it was.
way.
But then I just thought, you know what? I'll buy tons of books and colors and stuff like that. That's something that I can't get in Nairobi for the creativity of my children. But it was such a fun moment, and I was thinking, now there's the next phase of my life.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely. And that's what it's about, right?
Well, it sounds so easy as we speak. I'm just trying to look at it from the outside. I think maybe we've been lucky to have, was it mom, grandma? God knows what that, I'm trying to think of what that turning point was for you. Mine, I was trying to chalk up to just the fact that I was young still,
Yeah.
with enough school and experience under my belt to think, look, I'm 30 and I've been working 9 years. So if I change my career, I can always go
You still
back.
have
So that's sort of
time,
what I think was my,
Yeah.
allowance. But
Yeah.
what can we tell, I guess, young people who have this multilicious set of skills,
Yeah.
and, who perhaps haven't brought them to the fore or dared
Yeah.
to sort of really take them seriously. I'm trying to think, what would be the nuggets of advice?
It's a really, really good question. Because thinking back, I don't think it was anyone who necessarily triggered it for me. But I allow myself time to be still. Initially, maybe less consciously, sometimes because I'm an introvert. So sometimes I just need a minute or 5 to just re-energize and reflect and just be on my own. And that allows me to see opportunities, and it shuts out all the noise of all the voices. Sometimes I tell you, no, but you can't do that. I once had somebody tell me, you can't do, I love building, I love construction, I love construction sites. I will put on my sneakers and rock up and spend the day in I know it's bizarre, right?
It's great. It's
But
different,
if anybody would tell you, anybody who knows us as they know us might say, no, but what would you be doing on a construction site? And yet, what's to stop you building your own house from scratch? Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So sometimes, I'd say a lot of the times, taking the time to reflect and introspect and think about things you love or things you're curious about,
Right.
or things you may not love, but you can do.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
God has
Yeah.
blessed people, each of us, with such different talents. Some people are just like
Absolutely.
sleeping, Picassos, or sleeping
You-
Ngugi wa Thiongos, or
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness! Yeah, you know what I've found. I mean, for me, I feel like Nairobi as a center is an incredibly creative space, and what I've seen here, I've seen young people in really like from low income background, incredibly creative, turn that creativity to make a card, and people are buying the card. You know, they've drawn something and it's beautiful, or they've worked with the beadwork.
yes,
And
Yeah.
or they've worked with I mean, like the bicycle I showed you from my
Yes.
friend, and
Yes.
the creativity is amazing. So how do you move that creativity and monetize it? And I
Yes.
think for a lot of young people, I feel that's where maybe the challenge is.
Yeah.
And so it would be nice maybe next time we have something, or we could send some advice on our page on reach out to or reach out to this place, and because they can help you
absolutely.
figure that one out.
And here now there's such a great ecosystem of hubs, accelerators. And I
Yes.
think you touched on one thing that I find is say it. Say it. Like if I'm hanging out with you as your friend, your acquaintance, your family member, your colleague, and you are a scientist, but you're really good at sculpting,
Yeah.
speak it.
Yes.
Exactly.
And then perhaps, put it out there, because honestly, people need to know.
Yes.
Then we'll get to the point of, okay, show it.
Yes.
And then the point of monetizing. And I was saying that there are quite a few resources across the continent, but specifically in Nairobi, that help you now turn that into a go-to-market strategy,
Exactly.
or funding, funding sort of assistance.
Yes. In
Yeah.
fact, to that point, I mean, I'm sure people have seen, like, if you're living in Kenya, you've probably seen of these, seen online on Twitter or whatever, these guys who make these folding garden chairs that it becomes a picnic table.
Yes,
for
yes, I've seen
example,
those, yeah.
or these
Love
guys who are
those.
doing these hospital beds. I cannot emphasize enough the power of social media.
Absolutely.
In our part of the world,
Absolutely.
social media
Great
is the
advice.
shop front.
Great advice.
Kenya alone, you've got 8 million people on Facebook. You've got 2.3 million people on LinkedIn. You've got, you've got millions of people on social.
Yes.
So even you don't have to build a website.
Well, brick and mortar doesn't really exist
Absolutely,
anymore.
it doesn't.
And I'm even thinking of
Went
a
out of the
website
window.
Absolutely.
as brick and mortar.
It is.
Yeah.
Because
Don't need that either.
in this part of the world, I mean, go to Instagram.
Yeah.
And see, I shop from Instagram and
Oh,
they
so
deliver
do
to
I.
my door. Like,
So
I
do I.
buy tons of stuff
Yes.
now.
But
Yeah.
this is also
and
been
you don't spend
absolutely
money.
galvanized by the COVID-19 opportunity,
Yes.
where people are like, I need to get my stuff out. I
Yeah.
have stock.
Yeah.
How do I get out my stock?
Exactly.
Instagram.
So if you're good at something, maybe you do art, you see lots of these young artists, so maybe you draw, or maybe you write, or maybe you paint, or maybe you dance, or maybe whatever it is.
I love it.
I attended, so I'm involved in in a company. It's a tech startup. We just started 2 weeks ago, and we're bringing mentors and mentees, people who want to be mentored together. We call them
Fantastic.
advisors and advisees. And on our launch event, we decided let's have a virtual launch event, because of
Right.
course it's COVID,
Of
so
course.
we can't get
Yeah.
together and have a party, even if your heart really wants to.
Yes.
And so the CEO of the company, who is the founder and the idea, the brains behind the concept,
Right.
she got a guy who does events as his side gig.
Okay.
He works in some big corporate environment,
Right.
but he's got this side thing because he loves DJing and whatever. Let me tell you guys, we had an online party of note. It was a party after party.
Party after party.
Let me tell you, the guy had music. He brought in Waire for a live performance.
Wow.
We did karaoke. Everybody had their drink. We joked, we laughed. The way
And
we
it was all
introduced
virtual rooms.
It was all virtual.
Wow.
The party
Wow.
wouldn't
Wonder
end.
if we'll ever
3
have
hours later,
physical
we
party
didn't want to end the thing.
after COVID-19.
We were dancing in our living rooms. It was so much fun.
Oh my God.
Oh, that's
And we
great.
were like 25 or 30 of us.
Yes.
you
That's
know?
great. That's great.
So, I mean, back to what we're saying,
Yeah.
so I think beyond finding out what you're good at or what you love or what you can do,
Right.
it's also sometimes making time to challenge yourself on how you can monetize.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Events aren't happening, and yet it's not that they aren't happening, it's that they need to happen differently.
Exactly.
You know,
it's the difference.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And tell people.
And multiliciousness.
Yes.
Tell people. Do you know, like I find in this region,
Yes.
people will say, oh, I won't tell so-and-so, they'll steal my idea. Well, find some other so-and-so to tell, because you can't
Yeah.
sit on your phenomenal idea yourself.
Exactly.
Tell people and they'll help you refine it, they'll help you grow
Right,
it, they'll help
right.
you take
They'll
it to
support
market.
you. Yeah.
Oh my God, we could go on about this.
We
But
could.
this multilicious people, let me
Yes.
tell you,
Yeah.
it's always so great to hang out. And even if it's COVID-19 times, honestly, being outdoors just allows us to be able to do this in a safe way.
Exactly.
I know it's been difficult for so many people
Yeah,
out there
yeah.
from an economic, from an income point of view.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Right.
hopefully
It
this
is
helps,
what it
huh?
is. Yeah. I mean, so our parting shot to you guys is
Yes.
just be multilicious. Find all those layers of who you are and what you can do,
Yes.
and let yourself explore.
Totally.
And so with that, here we are. Subscribe, drop us a note, share your comments. Take care
Thank you.
and stay safe.
Stay safe.
Bye-bye.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye.